Hey guys, I've got a bit of a tricky one, a bit of a controversial one, and that is, can everybody have free will? And what happens when one person's free will interferes with the free will of somebody else? And that is what I would consider to be the case in what's going on in the world today. So from my research and understanding, it seems like this holographic world that we live in, this illusory, almost like simulation, this biochemical simulation that we live in, is supposed to operate on free will. We're supposed to have free will and to be able to consciously decide what to do, what to create, and how to live our lives, essentially. And there's various different reasons for this. Some have speculated that it's because God wanted to experience himself through many different viewpoints, and he wanted to enable people to have free will so they could actually choose to love him, compared to being forced to love him, which is not really love at all. It's not a choice. There's various different other theories about free will, how it's like a universal law, one of the laws of the universes, and how it's just how things work. But what's happening now is very interesting, and I'm going to explain why. By the way, my name is Steph, and I teach people how to raise their vibrations and do what I call spiritual biohacking. I have a membership where I teach you this stuff, I coach you, I explain and help you through things one-on-one. Link is in the description, or just check out astralhq.com/tribe. And I do actually have a free hour-long kind of webinar training on this stuff here on YouTube. Link is in the description. So, the problem is, with free will, that most of our decisions, most of the things that we think, do, and believe don't actually come from us. They are programmed into us through various different things. The culture, society, your peers, your parents, even your subconscious mind, and the things that you subliminally take on board without realizing it. And so this is the problem that we're in right now. So the law of free will, concept of free will, means that everybody has the power, the free will to choose what to do. The problem with that is that some people use that free will to decide to manipulate other people, and that's what we have in the world today. It's been the case for thousands of years. There's a small group of elites. I mean, you probably know the whole story, right? Small group of elites, bloodline families, institutions, organizations that have conspired together to manipulate and in many ways control and dictate what goes on in the world through various different agendas and means. I'm not going to go into specifics because you either already know or you don't care, but it doesn't really matter. The point is that people are using their free will to interfere with the free will of others through predictive programming, brainwashing, and just in some cases overt coercion, where they're just telling you to do stuff, basically, that is not in your best interests. And so technically, that's allowed to happen because they're using their free will to do what they want to do, even though it technically interferes with your free will. But it doesn't force you, and this is the interesting part in my opinion, it doesn't force you to do these things, right? To go along with their various agendas and plans. No, in most cases, obviously there are some exceptions, but in most cases, nobody's forcing you to feel worse, and nobody's forcing you to watch the television and get depressed and be fearful and eat junk food and put chemicals in your body and all of this stuff. Nobody's actually physically forcing you to do that, okay? And this is very important to realize. Most stuff like that we do to ourselves. Now, you could say, well, they're influencing it. Of course, they're influencing it. If you're wondering what that weird noise is, it's the waves washing up here on the shoreline. It's a bit louder than I thought they would be. But so the good news is, okay, you might say, well, that sounds like a load of bad news. It's not all bad news. The good news is that when we become aware of this, can change it. We can decide how much of their influence we want to take on board. How much of their words do we want to actually listen to and, do? And so the analogy I like to use is that if you imagine a farm full of cattle, what we are in now in the world is an energetic human farm, where our energy, specifically negative energies in the form of fear and anger, is being farmed and consumed by interdimensional beings. And I know this sounds absolutely insane, but the research and everything that has gone on seems to point in that direction. It seems to show that. So let's just assume that for a moment. Let's just assume that's true. And well, of course, we can debate that on another video, but let's assume that's true. What we find ourselves in is a human farm where our energy is being farmed, right? Collected and consumed. But the interesting thing is that we keep ourselves in this farm, in this prison, through our beliefs, which is also good news because it means that if we change our beliefs and change our attention consciously, we escape the farm. If you imagine a farm full of cattle, right, and there's no fences whatsoever, but they believe that there are fences. Most of them sadly, are going to stay on that farm. They're not going to try and escape. But if you stop giving your attention, your conscious attention to the system, then it's very easy to escape that illusion and to move on to something better and different. And so the kind of the systems, the methods that we are kept on this farm is two ways really. So first is that we don't know about it. So we don't know it's there. And by not knowing it's there, we don't feel trapped, so we never try and escape. That's the first way. And the second way is to make it so appealing that we, in many ways, are distracted. We want to stay in the farm, or we kind of know things are going on, but we don't really care because we're watching the football, or we're watching the Olympics, or we are trying to save up for our new car, our new trip, our bigger house, whatever it is. We're distracted by the game of capitalism and materialism so that we don't truly look at who and what we are. We don't look inwards. It's always an external distraction. And I've spoken about this in other videos. In the spiritual community especially, there is this false idea that we're going to be saved by something external, some higher power outside of ourselves. And there are many different forms of that higher power. You know, you have obviously the religious programs where it's supposedly a savior or character, some kind of hero figure that will swoop in and save the day, which again, we give up our power and we say, it's okay, somebody else will save me, somebody else will change the world. So that's one way. Or we have in the New Age community things like the Q agenda, the idea that we should just trust the plan, right? You must have heard this by now. Sit back and trust the plan, don't do anything, because it's all being taken care of by the Alliance or by the good guys, the white hats or whatever they want to call them. So that's another form. And then you have the ancient aliens theory that it's all kind of interdimensional and we don't really have much control over it. And there are these higher, more intelligent extraterrestrial races that are kind of running the show. And that's again giving our power away to something outside of ourselves, which we have not validated to even be correct. Now, I'm not saying that, you know, any or none of those things are true, because we honestly don't know enough. What I am saying is it's very likely that the answer is not found outside of ourselves. It's always been, you know, the answer and where we should be looking has always been inwards, inside ourselves, in recesses of our consciousness and our awareness. That's where I think the truth lies, and that's why even in the Bible and other religious texts and spiritual texts, it says things like, something like the Spirit of God or God is within all men. Not one man or even a group of men, but in every person, in every one of us. So I think the answer is always internal. Anyway, yeah, check out my training on raising vibrations. Comment what you think about this, and do you think free will is even possible? Because that is a debate as well, like whether we even have free will.